Good morning, folks. My name is Eric. Welcome to RevInMo with Eric. We're going to do some RevInMo today. Today's class, you're just going to need a stability ball. So, going to be pretty similar to last week's classes. Not much else to say. Let's just get going, huh? I'm going to try and add in a little bit of variation. Overall, the structure is going to be the same, but I'm going to add in some little tweaks here and there just to keep it interesting. And let's get going. Get some more light. Bring this down a smidge. Okay, so first exercise we're going to perform is called the Pelvic Rock or pelvic tilt. And I'm going to show you from the side here. So, being mindful of our RevInMo essentials again, we're going to start by sitting on top of the ball. Feet are going to be hip width distance apart, toes pointed forward, knees are stacked right above the ankles. From here, I'm going to draw my abs in and up to the front of my spine, so I'm abdominally hollowing. I'm going to provide some lift in my chest, float my head, shoulders are down and back. And in this position, what we're going to do is perform a pelvic rock. So I'm imagining that my pelvis is a bowl, and I'm going to start by tilting it forward and back from one edge of the bowl to the other. As I perform this movement, notice if you have any movement in the upper chest or in the knees, see if you can quiet those, and just focus on the movement, just in that pelvic floor. Again, going forward and back. For some of you, right, as I mentioned before, you might notice as you go forward and back that you might have this dip and rise in your chest. See if you can keep that still. Again, Brody says hi. As you tilt forward and back. I'm going to show you from the front, and now what we're going to do, so we did forward and back, now we're going to go side to side, which looks like this. So again, imagining our pelvis is that bowl, we're just going to go to the opposite sides of the bowl. I kind of think of like if someone has strings on the hips and pulls them up side to side. If you guys ever watch Conan O'Brien, he does the he does the thing. From here again, notice if you have any movement in the chest as you go side to side, or maybe in the knees, keeping your pelvis under the rest of your trunk, abdomen, quieting the knees, quieting the chest, and just moving through that pelvic floor. This alone might be tough for a lot of people because we don't usually tap into or mobilize our pelvic floor. It's usually our core and then our quads, right, or hamstrings. And we kind of miss that big picture here. So you might notice going forward and back, side to side, that one movement might feel a little more stuck than the other. Okay, so now what we're going to do is combine that forward and back and side to side, and we're going to perform circles. So you're going to perform one circle clockwise and one circle counterclockwise. It looks like this. Again, just alternating directions, completing one full circle. You might notice that this circle might be more of a square, right? Again, if you find yourself having that limitation of mobility through the pelvic floor, you might notice yourself cutting the corner of one edge. And so what I invite you to do is to slow down through that spot, feel that stretch, that ache, if you will. That's what we would call fascial remodeling. About one or two more circles each direction. All right, and now let's go ahead and perform our favorite, frog rock. So, frog rock, standing behind the ball, you're going to go ahead and squat into the ball, pubic bone in contact. You're going to be on all 10 of your toes pointed forward. From here, I'm going to drape the rest of my body over the ball, chin and nose touching the ball. Gonna press off the balls of my feet and my toes, cushion myself in my hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders, press off my hands, and cushion myself back in my feet, ankles, knees, hips. Again, continue to press that pivot bone in the ball. Again, making sure that my toes are pointed forward and I stay on the balls of my feet, so my heels are off the ground the entire time. Again, coming forward and back. Continue to have your head dangling forward, lengthen your spine forward, and again, as you come back, lengthen your spine, your tailbone back towards the ground. You can use the curvature of the ball to passively or encourage this abdominal hauling again, right? So drawing your abs in and up through the front of your spine gently as you continue rocking forward and back. And then we can start connection to our breath. So once I'm in my feet, I'm going to breathe in for a count of 4. And then pressing off my feet into my hands, I'm breathing out for a count of 4. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and out for 2, 3, 4. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out for 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out for 2, 3, 4. Come back into your feet. All right. From here, we're going to go ahead and perform dive. So dive, we're going to start in that frog position, just like so. From here, I'm going to press off my feet, legs come together. I'm going to reach out with my hands, like I'm diving into the floor, and then my head lands right between my hands. So again, pressing off my feet, legs come together, reaching out with my hands, and then the top of my hairline lands right between my hands. Press off my hands, and then I'm back on my feet. Again, forward, diving into the floor, and back. You're reaching your feet straight away from your body, your straight line, all the way from your head to your toes. Back. Notice where your head lands right in reference to your hams. A lot of times it's easy to overshoot and land your head much farther out in front of your hands. So see if you can continue landing your head right between your hands. Again, about 2 more. Good, and bring yourself up. Okay, next move is called snake. So actually, from that dive position, you go ahead and dive yourself out. I'll show you in this orientation. So dive out. You're going to straighten your elbows, chest drops down towards the ground. You can widen your hands just a little bit. Head is dangled. So frame, a point of reference, you're going to have the top of your belly button is going to be right on top of the ball. Bottom of your rib cage is in contact with the ball. Legs are together and relaxed. From here, you're going to press into one hand. So I'll press into my left hand. That shifts my body weight to one side of the ball. And then right before I'm about to fall, I press my opposite hand into the floor to catch myself. And then I repeat side to side. In effect, what I'm doing is that when I press my hand into the floor, I'm gliding my shoulder blade across the back of my rib cage. That movement transfers down my spine into my hips and lower body. As I continue going side to side, stay straight throughout the movement. Continue dangling your head. I like to have my gaze to where the ball meets the floor. And bring yourself up. Awesome. Okay. Now we're going to perform Buddha. So for this move, maybe I'll bring the camera down a smidge. There you go. For Buddha, you're going to be laying on the floor. Ball's going to be at your feet. Go ahead and lay yourself back. Your feet are going to be on the top front of the ball. Soles of your feet are facing each other, and then your knees drop out to the side. Okay. From here, what I'm going to do is draw my abs in and up to the front of my spine so you can kind of see that abdominal hollowing position, which raises my sacrum off the ground. So I'm not necessarily pressing my feet into the ground or squeezing my butt to get my sacrum off. I'm hollowing, and then that, gives me about 2 or 3 inches of clearance of my sacrum on the ground. From here, similar to those pelvic tilts or pelvic rock, what we're going to do is now tilt up and down or forward and back in this Buddha position. So what I like to think about is raising my tailbone up towards the ceiling and then letting it drop back down to the floor. Again, nice, slow and controlled up and down movement. Really working through that pelvic floor. If you've got tight hips, like I tend to, due to sports, you're really going to notice that stretch on the inside of your groin. From here, now we're going to go side to side. So starting from that pelvic floor again, we're going to be performing this gentle rocking side by side. Again, focusing on that abdominal hollowing. I think it's a common trend in revolution in motion that probably the most boring looking exercises are the ones where a lot of people receive the most amount of benefit. This one included, pelvic rock included, for sure. Okay, now we're going to go into knees side to side. So knees, feet together. So now, so your knees come together. Feet are going to stay on the top front of the ball. Heels are going to stay on the ball. And then from here, I'm going to drop my knees down to one side, back up, and down to the other side. Again, focusing on hollowing, noticing that stretch on the inside or outside of our hips. Encouraging movement and mobility in the low back and spine as we continue going side to side. If you want an extra variation with that knee side to side, What we're going to do is press the soles of our feet into the ball, like so, which raises our hips up off the ceiling. Again, knees stay together, and then we can continue going side to side. With either variation, make sure as you drop your knees on one side, that your knees together. You're going to get much more stretch, much more benefit doing so. You might even get an adjustment. Good, and relax. Alrighty. Okay. Let's do kneeling overhead rock. So, staying on the floor, this time you're going to be kneeling behind the ball. Knees and feet are together, hips are stacked above the knees. Using my hands, I'm going to walk the ball out in front. Straight arms, straight elbows, reaching that ball away from me. I'm going to drop my chest down towards the ground, drawing my abs into the front of my spine, and then I'm going to rock forward and back just an inch. With this move, you're definitely going to feel that stretch, that fascial remodeling in the shoulders. As you rock back and forth, again, focus on hollowing your abs. So I'm doing two things. As I'm reaching away from my body with my arms, I'm reaching my tailbone behind me, which is lengthening my spine, getting more space through my chest, throughout my ribs. And then I'm hollowing my abs, so that's kind of like my anchor for this movement. So I'm steady and strong there, not rocking too far out in front. I kind of use this hip stacked above my knees as neutral. Then I'm just going forward just an inch and back. If you notice that big stretch in your shoulders, you can definitely come out of it and take a couple sets if you need to. Additionally, you can walk the ball closer to where your forehands are on the wall, or on the ball. So you're decreasing that lever. Right now, reaching out as far, and you might be able to stay in that stretch a little bit longer. And go ahead and walk yourself up. Ooh, man. I really feel that in my spine in the best way possible. Okay. Now, we're going to perform a kneeling overhead twist. So knees, feet together. This time we're going to sit back on my heels. If you need a cushion to ensure that you're able to sit back on your heels comfortably, go ahead and do so. So a small pillow, a towel, something like that. From there, you're going to walk the ball out in front using your hands once more. Hands on the top sides of the ball. Chest is dropped down toward the ground. I'm going to hollow my abs, and then I'm going to twist to one side, trying to flash my bottom armpit to the wall, and back to the other side. So this twist is initiated by using the ball, and then the torso should follow. So you should potentially feel the stretch from your shoulders all the way down to your hips. You also might notice one side is much more sticky than the other. And then what we'll do, twist, add the bottom arm through like you're shaking hands at the wall, press the top of your forearm into your lap. Helps open up your chest, encourage rotation a little bit more. Again, as you do so, continue reaching that ball away from your body as you twist. And walk yourself up. Awesome. Okay. Give me 1 second. Had to grab my coffee. Hey, Brody, look at the camera here. You see the resemblance? Custom mugs. Okay, next move is going to be squat to overhead reach. So, to get in position, you're going to be sitting on top of the ball. Walk yourself down to a squat. With the toes pointed forward, knees stacked above the toes. If I press my feet into the ground, that accentuates this contact with my sacrum on the ball, so I want to maintain that. And with the pelvic floor work that we're doing, we're going to emphasize this squat portion here. You should already feel like you can get a little bit deeper into that squat as a result. Go ahead and interlace your hands behind your head, relaxing your upper body and head into your hands. From here, what you're going to do is press your feet into the floor, extending your body over the ball, like so, reaching from your toes all the way to your head, following, staying strong and stable throughout your core as you relax your upper body once more in your hands, matching the curvature of your spine with that of the ball. Back down to the squat. Once more, pressing your feet into the ground, pressing your sacrum in the ball. See if you can get a little deeper in that squat. And extend. Back down. Let's go ahead and incorporate a breath count. So we're going to breathe in for 6, hold for 4, breathe out for 8. So extending your legs, breathe in for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold for 2, 3, 4. Breathing out for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathing in for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold 2, 3, 4, and back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more. Breathing in for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold 2, 3, 4, and back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Using your hands, bring your chin to your chest and support your head and neck as you walk yourself up. Okay. Next move is skater. With skater, you're going to be sitting directly on top of the ball. Feet are going to be 2 times hip width distance apart. We're going to do some variations with skater here, mostly with the feet. Similar with the pelvic rocks, hollow your abs, lift in your chest, float your head, right? Stay nice in line, be mindful of our essentials while we're sitting right on the ball. From here, I'm going to press off one foot. That foot just relaxes on the ball as I catch myself in the other foot. Just like so. So feet stay at that 2 times hip width distance. As I press, or as I catch myself in my foot, my toes are pointing forward. So I encourage you to land with your toes first, and then with the heel. That also helps with forming a nice high arch, and then emphasizes that tracking, that proper tracking between the foot, the knee, and the hip. With this move, you're definitely, if you're unfamiliar with performing a move like this, you might feel some cramping on the inside of the outside of your hip. That's completely normal. One thing I recommend doing is maybe shortening up the distance, right? Or even having both hands or both feet on the floor and just rocking side to side. See if you can keep that knee tracking over the foot. At the same time as you skate side to side, notice how the rest of your posture is. So if you're sinking down, maybe dipping a little bit, so you can stay upright as you go side to side. With this move, now we're going to have our feet in the plie position. So what that looks like, when we land, our feet are going to be slightly pointed out. Whoa. looks like this. This helps us get into that pelvic floor a little bit more. So as you land, so you can sink a little bit deeper in to the hip, creating space through there, noticing that stretch, that fascial remodeling through the pelvic floor and hip as you go side with your toes pointed out. As before, make sure that your knee is tracking right over the toes as you go side to side. Definitely feeling it more in the left hip here. Interesting. For 2, 1, and relax. All right. Oh, I feel it. Okay. Now we're going to perform Inchworm, which is another new move. What you're going to need for this move, for this exercise, is a wall, preferably a blank wall. One that you've been using in the previous videos, if you've been seeing those, right, for plie wall squat. What we're going to do to get in position for Inchworm is you're going to be sitting on the floor. Hug your hips close to the ball, with the ball being in between you and the wall. Go ahead and lay yourself back. From here, using your feet, you're going to walk the ball up the wall so your heels are at the equator. Legs should be straight, and your sacrum should be resting comfortably on the ground. So a lot of this is dependent on whether we have tight hamstrings or, you know, a pretty tight back, if you will. So what I recommend doing is scoot back this way until you're able to straighten your knees and have less tension on the hamstrings, or at least what I should have said in the beginning is just make sure that your sacrum is resting on the ground. At any rate here, so once you're in position, what you're going to do is just relax. You're going to hang out, allow your abs to fall to the front of your spine, creating like a hammock sensation. You can have your arms up to the sides just for support. And then what we're going to do is roll up our spine 1 vertebrae at a time, just like so, up to about our shoulders. And then rolling back down. Again, 1 vertebrae at a time. Creating space through your spine until you're able to, again, press your sacrum back into the floor. And up, focusing. A lot of this movement is dictated by that abdominal hollowing. So I encourage you to continue hollowing as you come up, and especially as you come down hollow. Relaxing the muscles in the low back and spine, creating space, allowing each vertebrae to articulate 1 at a time until you're back down to the ground. And just keep going. This movement requires some balance and coordination, especially as you come down. The ball is going to wobble side to side. So that's why I recommend having your hands out for support. Notice if you have any tension in the head, neck, and shoulders, and just let that melt away. We can also incorporate our breath with this movement. I'm going to take a break just for a second. We can also incorporate our breath with this movement. I'd say breathing in for a count of 6 and breathing out for a count of 8. So again, more emphasis on the breathing out portion. It helps tap into that parasympathetic rest and digest part of our nervous system, helps relax the muscles, especially, you know, my history of heavy lifting. I used to have chronic low back pain, and I noticed the first time doing this movement, I felt that, you know, I felt that achiness, that deep ache, that deep burn in my low back and spine. A lot of that is that fascial remodeling, like we were talking about, you know, really trying to open up the back, create relaxation, allow our tailbone to drop towards the ground when we're standing up in space and time. So let's go ahead and incorporate our breath for 2 or 3 more. So breathing in, coming up for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and breathing out for 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathing in for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathing out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more. Breathing in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From here, go ahead and walk the ball down, roll over to one side, and gently bring yourself up. Awesome. Cool. That was Inchworm. That one is, a lot of movements are great. That one is one of my personal favorites, again, because we can start reorganizing that that conversation between the front and back of our spine in terms of how we can start engaging our core properly, creating space through that low back. Next movement is going to be called lunge. So with lunge, you're going to have the ball behind you. Go ahead and have one foot in front, toes pointed forward. You're going to have the other foot, the top of that foot on the top front of the ball. From here, again, hollowing, lifting, floating our head. I'm going to press the top of my foot into the ball, which brings me back into that lunge, and press my shin and the top of my foot into the ball again, which lunges me forward. And keep going. I'm really focusing on reaching that back leg behind me. I have about 60% of my weight in that back leg as I'm pressing the foot and shin of the ball. And again, pressing the foot and the shin of the ball again to bring me forward. This lunge is much more of a forward and back lunge than I would say an up and down lunge. So think about reaching that foot behind you. The front knee just passively bends as I come up. In this movement, if you're ever noticing any tension in that low back, you might be extending a little bit too much. So what I encourage you to do is come back up to neutral. Again, hollow your abs, stay strong here, and as you hollow, then reach with the foot. And back. Okay. Go ahead and switch sides. Again, toes pointed forward. Other foot is going to be on the top front of the ball, just like so. Go ahead, press your foot into the ball, which again brings you back into that lunge. Press your shin and foot in the ball, which lunges you forward. Whoa. If you want to make a challenge, you can change with your head position too, just for balance, right? I try to look at myself and see if I was framed upright, and that my brain doesn't like that. That being said, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but revolution motion with that balance and coordination is very neurologically based. So, when you have that sort of instability, your body, and especially your brain, is trying to figure out, again, where it is in space and time, trying to improve that connection with its environment, with the perception of its environment, so then it can act and interact accordingly. So if you've been watching with the past week, maybe change your head position. Look to the right, look to the left as you're lunging. Add that little bit of instability and balance, so long as you can do it in a safe manner. Give yourself that extra little benefit. And stand up. All right. Last move. Last move is going to be plie wall squat. With this move, I recommend a little bit of weight if you have some. So that might be grabbing a 2 to 3 pound bell here. You can use a water bottle. If anything, you can just raise your hands up overhead. That also works. Try and frame up the shot a little bit better. I haven't found the best angle for this yet. Okay. So, ball's in between you and the wall. You're going to be facing away from the ball, or from the wall rather. Walk your feet out in front. Feet are slightly splayed out in that plie position. Sacrum is the equator of the ball. So shift the ball up and down just so that your sacrum again is right at that midsection. With the bell, I'm going to reach with 2 hands straight up overhead. That helps when you really work on the lift in my chest, hollowing my abs, dropping my tailbone back towards the ground. So one thing to mention, if you reach up and you notice yourself extending, see if you can traction, tug your tailbone back towards the ground. From here, I'm going to squat down, pressing my feet into the floor, knees tracking over my toes, and then hollowing back up. I really think about squatting through my feet rather than with my legs or my quads. So once I press my feet in the ground, that drives my hip bones back into their sockets, drives my sacrum back into the ground, or into the ball. And once more, reaching with that bell, elbows straight, biceps to your ears. Take a small break. Next one, what we're going to do is pulse. I love this bell up overhead again because it emphasizes all the other essentials, but man, it tells me I really need to work on my shoulders. So, bell up overhead, come back down to the squat, and we're going to pulse up and down. Pulse, 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 pulse. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And come up, drop the bell, and we're all done. Awesome. So, yeah, it took about 3 minutes longer than usual, but that's cool. That's totally fine. I got to show you guys a couple extra movements. I hope you enjoyed the video. If anybody you think would benefit from hanging out with us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, send them over here. Let's have some fun. All right? Other than that, again, my name is Eric, and I will catch you guys next time.